Hello and welcome to Awards Buzz. I'm Shadan Larki, joined by Natalie, the co-director of Daughters. Before we start, I just have to say that the documentary Daughters is available on Netflix. If you haven't watched it already, please do so. It is beautiful. I cannot say enough good things about how much this documentary has moved me and meant to me. So please take the time to watch. Um, Natalie, it's stunning. It stopped me in my tracks, and I'm just so pleased to get the opportunity to talk to you about it.
Thank you so much. What an intro. I appreciate that so much. It's been a labor of love for so many years. So now that it's actually out there and resonating with people, it's just incredible. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, tell me about that labor of love. How did you get involved? How take me back to the beginning.
Totally. So it actually started 10 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. I'd always been passionate about documentaries, and I'd been doing short documentaries since I was a kid. And then as I grew into more types of filmmaking, music videos and commercials and PSAs, there was some short format stuff that I found really powerful, just for kind of inspiring and affecting an audience really quickly. But I also was noticing that a lot of the conversation around women empowerment was talking down to women in a way, and it felt like it was kind of like written by advertising agencies or men, and it wasn't like giving a platform for young women's voices to just be themselves. And maybe that's a little quiet voice, or maybe that's a loud voice. Just I didn't find that it was as authentic as it could be. And I was telling this to one of my best friends, and she, the very next day, sent me this podcast. And she was like, I think you're going to love this. I think this is exactly what you're talking about. And it was Angela Patton bringing about the story that these girls who were in elementary school kind of knew what they needed to bring their future into the best place. And they wanted to celebrate and connect with their fathers. And their fathers were incarcerated, and they didn't, you would think, okay, maybe there's a lot of um, anger or sadness, mixed emotions around this. And they had this sort of wisdom and emotional intelligence to say, we want to celebrate our fathers. They're overlooked. We want to throw them a dance. We want to have a party. And that kind of like leadership and those kinds of ideas that can bring empathy and beauty and light into really complicated emotional scenarios is truly what the world needs. And this is just an example of like what can really happen when we listen to young women's ideas. So I reached out to Angela, who runs Girls for Change and has been running this program, the father-daughter dance in a jail, for many years. And I asked her if she'd consider partnering with me to make a documentary. And at that time, we had no idea that this was going to be like a decade long journey. But it really came with so many hurdles, to get access to film in a prison took 3 years. Then it was, the program moving to DC and then following the girls as they grew up for 5 years. And that decision that it was going to be a coming of age film and not just about the dance. So there was many steps along the way that just added time to the project, but ultimately we wanted this story to be told in the very best way possible. So we weren't willing to sort of cut any corners or shave off time to tell it in the best way possible. So that's why it's incredible to be here now after all this.
Well, that was one of my questions because I did like that there was a time jump and we got to see the girls as they got older and see sort of how the dance impacted their lives. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I mean, it would have been really easy to end the film after the dance because it's this big climax and a kind of an emotional resolve. But then you don't know, does this really powerful day, what impact does it have on the future? And, I think we all know that parent-child relationships don't change overnight. And truly, like that relationship affects all of us at our core. So to see that change over time was going to take time and patience on our end. So we knew that it was going to take maybe 3 or 4 years of following the girls and really seeing if that one day made an impact. And so most of our filming was after the dance, even though there's only kind of these poignant glimpses. In order to have captured those moments, we were really there for months and months for the years after. So it was very like dedicated to the verite filming for the years after the dance. And then it was really when, you really see these shifts over the years with Santana, with Aubrey, with Jayana, and the relationships evolve and change as fathers come home and get sentenced. And ultimately, what that one day and that memory and that connection with touch and humanity really does to kind of like heal a fatherhood wound and start to like make an impact for the years to come.
And how did you, I mean, as you mentioned, you're sort of in the room and with these girls and with these fathers. I mean, how did you build the bond of trust to even have that permission to be there? I mean, what was it like to be there for such a prolonged period of time? I mean, you may sort of be in the background, but you do become a mesh in these lives, and they don't just become characters, obviously, at a certain point. So can you tell me about that?
Yeah, of course. I think there's no shortcut to like time and getting to know people and real relationships. And so there's a lot of getting to know everyone before we ever bring cameras in. It was really just me and my producer, Lisa and Angela. Angela's working with the families on the outside as well to just get them prepared and comfortable to even go through the program and go to the dance, particularly with the moms. There's a lot of like, uncertainty and fear around why would I let my child away from me and go into a prison and have this experience and what's she going to feel like afterwards. So there's that part of it. And then there's also just me and Lisa going and sitting with the families, understanding, what does the world not know about the impacts on your life because, you're dealing with a husband or a partner or a father that's incarcerated. And there was so much that these families wanted to say and share. So I think that letting them lead what the film was going to be about and what elements of their personal lives and family lives they wanted to show got them really motivated and on board to like be our friend and let us in and create this together. And then if you're just there having fun and hanging out and going to birthday parties and visiting them at the hospital, like you have to just be in their lives and the camera's there some of the time and not there a lot of the time. And then over the years, there's a lot of trust. And if the moms are not comfortable or one of the daughters isn't in the mood that day, they're very open with you to say, like, put the camera away. This is not the day for that or whatever. So you just kind of all you figure it out together.
Well, and I have to ask you just on a personal level, because even for me watching it, I was so struck by it emotionally. I mean, I cried throughout. How do you sort of, I mean, maybe you don't, but how do you, I guess, live with these emotions? And obviously, it's nothing compared to what your subjects are experiencing, but I would imagine that just being in these environments has to have some sort of effect. So, how are you able to sort of maintain the human lens, but also be able to put your director hat on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you want to do the film justice so that it's ultimately like helping these families in the ultimate goal. So I think that when you're in that zone, then it's a little, you can kind of disassociate a little bit as like within your own heart and you have to deal with your feelings later. So if you're in a household or you're doing interviews and some really intense stuff is being shared, I think it's really important to create this like very open space. So you are receiving that energy, but you also, you have a certain guard where you're able to kind of like compartmentalize yourself for a time. But to be honest, there's a lot of years where a lot of stuff would build up for me, or I'd wake up feeling very heavy because you are receiving so much and then you're not really processing it in the moment because you're there, you're making this film and you're trying to serve the higher cause as best as you can, but then that energy and all that you've been through and seen goes somewhere. So that's just a process of like taking care of yourself, being able to talk to other people. The edit process was cathartic, making the film, getting it out there, but it's heavy and there's no escaping it. And so it's interesting how it finds itself in different areas of my life and at different times. But the real relationship I have with these families and when they call me and say, this has been a cathartic experience. When are you coming back? Like, I just love being able to sit and talk to you. I feel like our time together has been beautiful and helpful for them in some way and for me. And so then that keeps me going.
I wanted to read the sort of beginning of the film when sort of voiceover says girls already know what they need. The wisdom lives inside of them. And I thought that was really beautiful. And ultimately, Daughters is a celebration of girlhood, in my opinion. And sort of it contrasts a lot of these sort of heavier emotions with lighter ones. I mean, we see the girls sort of getting their hair done for the dance, getting their nails done, sort of the Aubrey's excitement when she sort of opens up her poofy, sparkly pink dress. I found all those moments sort of really beautiful and touching, and I wondered sort of if you could talk about that, about sort of the power of, and especially how articulate these young girls were. Like they really understood their emotions and were able to articulate how they felt about their fathers and this experience. And so that really struck me, and I wonder what stood out to you about sort of the emotional maturity that we were able to see.
Yeah, I think that this film was really for me about the wisdom of a child and the wisdom that these girls have. And I do believe that, as we pass down DNA and information through generations, sometimes the youngest ones are the wisest in the room. And, when we're pre-puberty and when we're like 11, 12, 13 years old, there's a really beautiful time in life where you're just so connected to your intuition. You're also really intelligent and you really have a vision, like you are your full being. And it's also before society has sort of layered you with a lot of like fear, risk factors, what you can do, this kind of thing. So, I don't know. When I first listened to this TED Talk and I heard it was from this like 12-year-old girl, I was like, you know what? I think I was the smartest I was when I was 12. And I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker and I wanted to do all these things. And I was so clear about it. And then things kind of get off track and it's harder to maintain those values for yourself. And it just made me really feel like girls that age might have the answers because of that like purity at that time. And we should really be listening to more women at that age and how many problems could we solve if we listen to this like emotional intelligence of young women. So yeah, I don't know, it hit me on a personal level and I really thought that this was like truly the type of leadership that could solve a lot of problems in the world. And then that's of course this inspiration I had. And then I had no idea the kind of girls I would meet. And then you meet someone like Aubrey, and she just completely sweeps you off your feet. And she's 5 years old and is just overflowing with this wisdom. She's hilarious. She's curious. She's asking me all these questions. You know, she's living 3 grades beyond her years and all this kind of thing, and she's keeping me involved when I'm having a hard day on the film. She gives me a pep talk. Santana, who's just incredibly thoughtful with what she wants to say about her experience with Mark when we first meet her. And I also was like, okay, after an hour of some pretty hard things we were discussing, let's take a break. Let's maybe revisit this tomorrow. And she was like, I don't think so. We're going to talk for another 3 hours. It kind of goes on, and she wanted to just get a lot out. And so I think that my instinct and the girls met, and that's where the film happened. And of course that's where me and Angela aligned, because these were just really like deep held beliefs that I don't think a lot of other people have. I certainly haven't seen a lot of things before that are believing that like the power can come from 12-year-old girls. And I don't know. I think that that shines through in the film.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the conversation with Santana in the car where she says, I don't want to be a mother, and if I do become a mother, it's not until I'm 45. She's so clear about sort of the impact this has had on her, and I think it's
Yeah.
so easy for people to say, but you're a child and you don't understand what's going on. And I think what Daughters does so beautifully is show that no, like these girls are being impacted, and there's a sort of the wound that they mention it's really there and it does impact them through the years, and it's just so beautifully done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, and that fatherhood wound's pretty universal, and learning about our own fatherhood wounds and how that impacts us. And there's been a lot of people, that have come to me with ideas and thoughts about that. So it's beautiful that it's resonating with all kinds of people.
And the fathers as well. I mean, there's a lot of really sort of vulnerable conversations that they have. One father mentions, I've never had the opportunity to touch my daughter. And then somebody, jokingly says, "What if I don't know how to dance?" And so there's a lot of these moments with them. What was it like to sort of to be with them and to sort of see their vulnerability in contrast with their daughters?
Yeah, exactly. I'd never been in a prison or jail before, so I think initially I was like, okay, this is my, I might feel um I didn't know how I was going to feel, but I did expect I was going to meet some great men. I never really went in there thinking I wasn't going to meet anything but human beings and talk about their daughters. And that's what happened. And they were so open to me, and it became something that we both looked forward to. So I got to know them individually, but for those fatherhood sessions with Chad, I would definitely leave the room. Angela would leave the room, and we would let them just have like a men's space together. And that's where our cinematographer, Cambio, he also was able to put the camera down and join the circle as a father, as someone who'd had a parent that was incarcerated. So again, kind of protecting the space in each of the kind of arenas that we were filming in. But it's real, like there's darkness in lightness. There's humor in the tragedy. Like everyone's surviving and getting along. And so there is a lot of these I would say a lot of humor from the girls and the fathers, and whether that's just every day and partly like what we all need to do when things are hard. And those are moments that we really wanted to like bring out and lean on because all of these things exist at the same time.
Before speaking to you, I didn't realize how long of a process Daughters was for you. And one thing that struck me about the film is I felt like everything we saw was so intentional and was leading to something else. I think of even like the moments of physical touch that we see, whether it's
Mhm.
the fathers, playing with their daughter's hair or just giving hugs. And I want to ask you about that, about sort of how you decided what to include, what not to include, what got left on the cutting room floor, what sort of drove the weaving together of the film that we ended up seeing.
Yeah, so I think that documentaries can go so many ways. So you have to be really specific on your themes, and our theme of touch and human connection, and the healing power of music was and dance were some of these core themes. So that allowed us to look for things in the footage. So yes, throughout it, the connections between touch and from one shot to the other, there might be this sort of lyrical fluidity that we're trying to sort of develop this language between the girls and the dads. We're bringing music in from a girl's space and bringing it through the window with the fathers. So we're always trying to like bring the lightness and this connection through. And then with all those examples of touch, we are building up to that and sort of teasing it and showing that as a theme and how much that really matters. And then I think that really makes the impact in the hallway extremely strong. And then what's missing as everyone kind of needs to needs to go away. There were many themes and many ways this film could have been put together, but when we asked all the family members, what would you like to change about this situation, about having an incarcerated family member? They didn't say bring them home, bring them closer, all this, there could have been a lot of different answers. Every single person said, I just want to be able to touch them.
Oh my
And so through the course of this film, more and more facilities have also closed their visitation rooms. So it wasn't even something that we were aware of at the beginning of the project. And that's what's so powerful as well about something that takes this many years is that the momentum of an issue and the underlying theme actually was building in severity as we went along. And so we were even learning through this process. Like some of the dads would be like, last year, I was able to have her come and sit on my lap and sit in a cafeteria. And now all of a sudden, I'm taken to a video room and then there. So it's kind of like it was happening to the families in real time, the years that we were going through it. There's a scene where Diamond is showing us on her phone, like she just had learned the app and learning that it was like 7.99 or 14.99 to like FaceTime. And so she's having to decide between eating that day, paying for gas, or, doing a FaceTime with Mark. So this became not only just incredibly horrific to learn that companies were potentially profiting off of this kind of family separation and families are being kept down and no one should be charged for visits, but that also that the element of touch was something so key to the dance. So they both complemented each other really well. So now our work with Impact campaign and with the awareness is really going to be around bringing those touch visits back and protecting these kids. Because when you're a child, nothing is the same as going and giving your family member a hug. Like touch is the number one language of love for a child. And if you take that away, that connection just dissipates extremely quickly.
Absolutely. And to know that, 95% of the fathers that participated in the program did not, return to incarceration. Have you heard anything about maybe more prisons taking on this program? I'm sure that's something that we can all hope for.
Yeah, there's a lot that have reached out, and I know that Angela, we had a screening at San Quentin prison a couple months ago because they did one of the first film festivals in a prison. It was amazing. So they have been talking to her about it. I know that there's one in London even that's talking about it. So and over the years, she's had so many reach out. It's just the bandwidth of putting them on. So now that we've done this film and there's more awareness, I think that she'll be able to expand and be able to have the bandwidth to have multiple. So that's really exciting and something that we're planning for the next year.
Um, Natalie, what is it like to work on something for so long and to have it be out in the world and received in this way? I can't even imagine. I get the joy, but also maybe the bittersweetness of having this potentially say goodbye to a chapter of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really both. Like I have like really good days and then those like really emotional sad days when you're like, "Oh, this has been taken away or it's gone," because it's been the thing that I've defined myself by in my own creative world and had such a beautiful, really soul-feeding project for so long. And watching these girls grow up, we kind of all grew up together, and Aubrey just turned 11 and everyone's so old now. So that has been like one of the biggest gifts in my life. So it's going to be, and it has been this year. It's been so beautiful. The responses are overwhelming, like from all over the world and the audiences that it's impacted people this much. I'm so grateful people have opened their hearts to it. And as my first film, I am pretty damn proud of myself, and I'm really happy that
As
it's
you should
resonating at this
be.
level. But yeah, I think that there's a natural um come down as well to like not being able to work on it anymore. So I just am working on some space to find the next thing and the next thing I can make. And yeah, but ultimately like it's so amazing that people resonate with it. And it's really, I think, it makes me feel bittersweet about the world. We're at once the most connected and the most disconnected that we ever have been. So I think that the themes of this film are resonating with everyone, and we all don't look each other in the eye, and we all don't take the time to hug and touch each other, and even just look at our own family health sometimes. And so I hope that this film can inspire people to take the time to look at family wounds well when they don't have walls between them.
Absolutely. That's why I think this is a film that I can universally recommend. I think it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, there's the humanity is so strong that anyone can connect to it. Um, is there anything that, and you're deservedly maybe taking some time, taking a break, but when you look at your career, where do you go from here? I mean, I would imagine it'd be a little hard to top this just because I know it's meant so much to you, but do you want to sort of stay in the social justice space? Are there other things that are inspiring to you that you might want to discover or
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll always want to stay in social impact storytelling. That's always been my passion. But depending on the idea, I think that they can come into the world in different ways. When I was younger, I thought, oh, maybe it's like narrative project based on true stories. Daughters was definitely one that needed to be these girls, Angela, Chad. No cast could ever compete with how amazing they are. I'm very interested in pushing the boundaries of documentary and hybrid models so they can have like more magic realism sequences. And I think Sing Sing also was a really interesting film this year, and they were kind of like cute like kismet films on a similar subject, right? So they had men that were all in that previous program, they were all incarcerated at one time, and then you just see how amazing they are at the authenticity of playing themselves. So I think that melting the boundaries and using the tools of art and cinematography and the layers and the poetry that that can give us beyond traditional documentary is really interesting for me. So, yeah, I just want to continue to kind of push the boundaries on what's possible in terms of storytelling, but keep telling stories that are going to be extremely like emotionally resonating and, illustrate a part of the world that we might not have, thought about or been able to see so far.
Mhm. And as I say goodbye, is there anything that I haven't asked you about, or just I want to make sure you have the final word?
Thank you. I really just, if you, we do have our impact campaign that's going on, and we love people to join us, talk to us, follow us, and that's on Daughters Documentary, Instagram or Girls for Change. And there's a lot of work to be done. And I just hope that people can, share the film if it resonated with them and come say hi if you're interested in what we're doing.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to have links to all of that in our article. Natalie, thank you so much. I just, again, cannot tell you how much this film was meant to me, and to get to talk to you about it and learn more from your perspective is
Thank
such
you.
a gift and a joy. And I'm so grateful. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really loved your questions. Thanks for
Thank you.
appreciating it so much.
Have
Thank you.
a wonderful evening and take care.
I will. Okay, bye.
Bye.